Well, Heidi ho, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Business Badassery. Actually, I got to talk to you about that name in a second. Business Badassery, where we talk about location-dependent income and having your own business and all that fun stuff. I am here with the wonderful Miss Billie Olds. Hi, Billie.
Hi, Caleb. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. This is
after the New Year.
Yeah, you're probably seeing this about 3 weeks after the New Year. We follow our own advice. We try to do this stuff in advance to stay organized with shit like that. So we don't want to do these like on the fly. Although, I mean, one of these days we could. Depends on how much courage we both have. You want to do this like live, like on a webinar or something. The problem with that is you can't edit yourself out if you say something dumb or say something you didn't want to say. So when you're live, you have to be very cognizant of what you're saying.
Wait a second, Caleb. Neither of us would ever say anything asinine that we'd hate to have in the public eye. What are you talking about?
No, I wouldn't say something asinine. I would say something to get me in trouble. I definitely would say that. And matter of fact, you know what? You would too. Yeah. You could say some shit and get you in trouble. We both. So that's our problem. Not that we say something stupid. We say something that we would get in trouble for. Yeah. Not necessarily. I could say something dumb. I could say something dumb too. But I would usually when I say something dumb live, I immediately correct myself because I've done this a long enough time where I know I'm going to get someone in the comments who says, so I just did a live stream the other day and I was joking about that Pink Firefly and I are soulmates. I said soulmates and all that bullshit. And a guy in the comments, sure enough, and I knew when I came out of my mouth, that's what happened. The guy in the comments said, "You believe in soulmates now? Really? Really?" So that's what you have to constantly correct yourself because people in the comments will correct you on it.
Well, and people take us literally too and don't understand that we grow and change. So something you might have believed in 3 years ago can morph over, change over time. It evolves like the rest of our thinking and knowledge.
Yeah, I've evolved some of my thinking in the last 20 years. The main big stuff, no. But on the fringes, I've changed a few opinions. People have to show me facts and statistics and data, and then I'll go, oh, God, maybe you're right. Instead of saying, no, that's not right. No, shut up. Yeah, that's most of the internet.
That's a lot of our conversation, though, Caleb, is you and I throwing numbers and stats at each other and arguing.
Totally.
So I really
But that's a valid way to argue. We just did that the other day with something, didn't we?
We do that
That's a valid way to argue, is with numbers.
Exactly.
I was like, I need to see the numbers. And you said, oh, motherfucker, I'll show you the numbers. I'm like, all right, show me the numbers. So that's the correct way to disagree. So you have numbers and facts on both sides. Instead of saying, you're an idiot, shut up. You're a bad person. Yeah.
God.
That's right.
Yeah, who has time for that crap?
Today's topic.
I was going to say it brings me to a topic today, Caleb, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
And that is a perennial disagreement that you and I have, which is, do you have to own your own business? So job versus business. What is right? Is there a right or wrong? Now, I think, I know what my answer is. I know what your answer is. But let's get into it a little bit with the audience. First, I know that your position is everyone has to have their own company. That's the end,
more or less.
That is everything.
There's some nuance to that, but go ahead, more or less, yes.
Tell me more about that because I think it's bull. But tell me why everyone needs to own their own business.
So first, I will acknowledge there is a percentage of human beings who can't start their own business. Because when people like me say you need to have your own business, the objection is, well, not everybody can start their own business. Yeah, technically that is true. There are people who have a 75 IQ. It's probably difficult to start your own business. There are people who have, serious, I don't want to call them mental problems. I want to say like who suffer from horrible depression and they just can't get out of it. I don't want to say mental illness. What is the word I'm looking for? Not mental disability. I'm not coming up with the term, but people who have real serious mental, I'll call them issues, but I don't mean mental issues. We all have mental issues. You know what I'm saying? People who are really
cognitive disability or.
See, not even that far. People who are, have you ever met someone, or do you know anyone? I think you do, in your personal life or your family life who's just been depressed and they're depressed for 25 years. That's just how they are. They're just negative, horrible, depressed people. They don't seek therapy. They don't seek any help. They're just miserable people. I don't mean they're assholes. I mean, they feel miserable all the time. Okay, there's a percentage of people like that. They probably shouldn't start their own business. They probably can't. So I acknowledge that there is a percentage of humanity I don't know how big or small it is. I imagine it's reasonably small, who don't have the ability to start your own business. So I acknowledge that. So if the argument is not everyone can do that, I agree. Not everyone can, but most people can. And so the next thing is people like me, I probably shouldn't say people like me. I should say me. I should take ownership. When I say everyone should have their own business, the next thing is, well, not everyone can be a multi-millionaire. Not everyone can be a billionaire, Elon Musk. Not everyone can be like you, Caleb. Things like that. That is also correct. I didn't say start your own business and become a multi-bazillionaire. I've said many times, you don't need to be a millionaire. I don't teach make millions of dollars. I don't teach that. I think you should if you want to. I think it's a pretty good thing, but you don't have to. There's plenty of people. I talk about lifestyle models and sovereign CEO all the time that don't require anywhere near millions of dollars. We can be very, very happy making the sovereign CEO minimum of $85,000 a year, location dependent to your own business, especially if you are single or have a small family and you live somewhere outside the Western world that's very inexpensive and things like that. That's fine. None of that requires millions of dollars. So if the argument is, well, not everyone can make millions of dollars and have this giant business like Steve Jobs, correct. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying your own business that generates around $85,000 a year US pre-tax net. That is within the capability of most people, other than the people I just excluded earlier. So that's it. I think that's it.
What about those people who have maybe a medical issue, a family member with a medical issue? We're having that insurance, that employer provided or employer funded insurance is really pivotal to their success or to their sustainability of their lifestyle. Mm-hmm. That's where I have the argument, because there are a lot of people, let's say you have a couple of kids, one of your kids has a health issue, your spouse has a health issue. Funding that solo is really hard. That is one of the biggest benefits of working in the corporate world, is that you have a little bit of a safety net. And we all fucking know it's not much of a safety net, but it does exist. So you'd have family paid leave, you get a medical leave, you have employer funded insurance, and that's something that disappears as an entrepreneur. That's something you need to fund yourself 100%. Mm-hmm. And that's where I say it's okay. It is okay not to have your own business. You can still be location independent. Maybe talk to your employer about transitioning into a freelance position, into a contracted off-site position. There are a lot of different routes to the same goal without giving up that medical, which is so very important, especially for people in the US. Because
to be clear, Billy is talking about, correct me if I'm wrong, we're really talking about US people, because if you're in Europe, certainly Scandinavia, you don't have to worry about this no matter what you're doing. This is more of an American thing she's talking about, but yes.
Very much an American thing, or even some European countries where elective surgeries, where things are not covered. But particularly for our US audience, I get that all the time. Billy, that's fucking nuts. I can't do that. I have kids at home. We have to have insurance. I can't afford to fund that.
Well, wait a second. So you just changed your argument. So I want to.
There are multiple arguments, but you're right.
Oh, okay. So let's go through each one. And by the way, I don't know if you've seen some of the comments on our last few podcasts. Apparently, I interrupt you too much, which is true. I interrupt people.
Guys,
so I will try. So, dear viewers, I will try not to interrupt Billy as much as I have been, because I do that. My God.
Before you go on, let me just add, I read those comments and laughed out loud, took a screenshot, shared it with a couple of friends.
Oh, shit.
Because the thing that drives people most crazy about me with my ADHD in particular is I fucking interrupt all the time. I can't help it. Like I can't, I need to share. I need to be part, because that idea is going to flutter away. So I get called out for it all the time, and to have you get called out made my little heart.
Oh, it made you feel so good.
I did.
Yeah, because no one called you out for interrupting me, motherfuckers. Yeah. All right. That's fine. I know I do it because, I just know I do it. When I have my wife on a few videos, same complaint. Caleb, my God, you let her talk. You keep interrupting. I'm like, yeah, I do interrupt. So I will endeavor to do less poorly. I won't be 100% perfect, but I'm paying attention to that. Okay. So first, let's cover the medical thing. We'll cover the kids thing next, because those are two different things. Okay. You agree?
I personally agree, but a lot of people lump them in together and say, I need the medical because of kids or because.
And that's I think that's bullshit, but we'll cover that in a minute. I have kids, so I can't start a business. I'll cover that in a second.
Well, everyone knows I'm allergic to kids.
So right. That's why I'm shocked you're making this point.
Exactly. But this is what I hear from other people, men and women.
Right. Okay. I hear all kinds of bullshit excuses. That doesn't mean they're valid.
I'm happy to be corrected on the kid front because I couldn't have those creatures living in my house. I wouldn't.
Oh, I know you couldn't. You'd rather have dogs. Right. Mm-hmm. All right. So let's cover medical. So when you say, well, what if they have a medical condition or medical issue? Mm-hmm. What do you mean? How serious of an issue are you talking?
So I have some medium severity health issues, which means that as a solo entrepreneur, right. I pay more my baseline because they say, oh, that is
I know that. Do you have a job?
I don't have a job, but I pay more than $20,000 a year to have the most basic health coverage I can get. And that has an $8,000 deductible. So I can understand, like, if you are a person in that position, that is a huge chunk of my income. So I have to make well over 6 figures.
But you did it.
Yeah, I did. But I'm also only one person. I don't have to support someone else.
Right. So you're talking about now. Oh, I see. You're talking about if I have kids and I have a medical issue.
Yes.
Okay.
So it limits your ability to work if you own a small business. Let's say you're a solopreneur or you have a small firm with 2 or 3 people. You have a medical condition that keeps you from working. You have to pay all of your insurance outlays yourself. Mm-hmm. It becomes unaffordable to own your own business at some point. Like I've had guys comment on my stuff, say things like, hey man, easy for you to say, I have ALS and I'm in a wheelchair. And I responded, you're right. However, what percentage of humanity have ALS and are in a wheelchair? That's called the exception to the rule. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what percentage of humanity have debilitating chronic health problems. I think you're right. I think there's a percentage of people who have a debilitating chronic health problem where starting a business probably wouldn't be a good idea unless this scenario was unusual. But again, is that the norm? What percentage of people have that problem? I should say percentage of Americans. I think it's
the exception to the rule
because this may be something that you run into globally as well.
Okay, sure.
I think that's very fair. But I think
what we're talking about here is what I mentioned earlier is that we're talking about the exceptions to the rule.
But most people have kids.
Okay, now that's the separate topic. So
now, let's jump to that one.
That's different.
The argument I hear the most is like, I have a wife, I have kids. I can't fucking do that. You're crazy, Billy.
Bullshit excuse.
You can do that, Billy, because you don't have kids.
It's such a bullshit excuse.
I hear that all the time.
Of course you hear that all the time. Absolutely. I'm sure you hear that. I've heard it too.
I know how I overcome that one. But how do you overcome that one when you're speaking to a new audience? New people who don't understand the feasibility, how do you get them over that initial hurdle of shit, I have all these people to support and I'm fearful and a lot of my safety net goes away if I leave the corporate world?
Right. So I'll give you a logistical answer and I'll give you an anecdotal answer. I'll give you the anecdotal answer first. I went full time with my first business. I quit my job. My last job was at Nike over 25 years ago. I quit my job when I was 24 years old. I was not married, but I was engaged to a woman who had a kid. And very shortly after that, we had a kid. So I started a new business as a young dumbass in his 20s with a stay-at-home wife. She worked for a little bit and then she came home when my daughter came with 2 little kids. I made it work. I have known many, many people, men and women both, mostly men, but women too, who have quit their jobs, especially, and I'm talking about when the women were the breadwinners, okay? Quit their jobs, started a business when they had a kid or 2 or 3, and they made it work. I've known many, many people. I'm sure you have too.
Mm-hmm. I do know a few. I know a lot, though, that go back, especially when they have kids. They'll maybe start a business or think about trying something, try for 6 months or a year, get scared, and jump back into the corporate world.
Well, that's most people who start a business. That's most human beings who start a business with or without kids.
Agree 100%.
Yeah,
I think
so that's most people start a business.
The biggest struggle that I have is helping people overcome that objection. Well, I have kids. Well, this, well, that. Starting my own business doesn't mean, in my opinion, that you have to jump in full bore. You don't need to quit your job to start a side hustle. Start it first. Get the ball rolling. Test your ideas. Test your pricing. Get out there and do something. Owning your business to me means you own your own LLC and you do freelance work to get started. It doesn't mean you have to quit your job tomorrow. You have to roll into this new business model where you're going to be a coach or a consultant or create a course. You don't have to do that. You can
you know what?
Slow.
They're not even talking about that. When they say start a business, what they're envisioning or what they're implying is that they quit their job tomorrow morning and they go open like an auto parts store and a high cost, high risk, very time intensive. No, that's not what start your own business means. It can. I wouldn't start a business like that. Shoot me in the head. But that's not what we're talking about.
I love food. And you know this, Caleb. I'm the biggest
food
snob out there.
We both love food. Yeah.
And I've toyed with the idea of, I work with a lot of food companies. I've invested in a few. Love it, love it, love it. And there aren't any good restaurants, very few good restaurants where I live.
Oh, I know where this is going.
Yeah, exactly. So Billy's like, well, I can buy a commercial kitchen and just, have that as a resource for other people that I can play around with. Or I could open a restaurant and, curate them. Fuck that. And then I realized, fuck that. No, I just want to go someplace and eat.
Yeah. I've always fantasized, I'll never do it because as you know, restaurants is one of the worst businesses you could start. Literally one of the worst companies. You guys watching or listening, one of the worst business models to start is restaurants. It's awful, but it looks so fun. Oh, this would be so fun. And I've always had this thought in the back of my head, not lately, but throughout my life. Really cool to own like a little Chinese restaurant. That'd be so fun. No, it wouldn't. But I still have this thought it would be fun. No. But anyway, my point is, first of all, you made one point. You don't have to you don't have to quit your job and start a business that makes no money tomorrow. How stupid is that? No, you don't do that. I didn't start my first business that way. I worked for, 2.5 years part-time before I went full-time. Mm-hmm. So that's one answer. The other answer is you sit down and you do, and everyone should do this. I've talked about this in my content. You sit down and you do a budget. What is the minimum amount of money I need if I'm the breadwinner of my family, even if I'm a woman? Okay. Doesn't matter.
Even if.
What?
Oh, Caleb, even if I'm a woman.
I know. My world is guys, but I know. Most of my audience is
such a dumbass.
I know. Well, I'm throwing women in there. Be nice to you. So yeah. So even if you're a woman, just kidding. So man or woman. Well, here's what I'm saying. Statistically, when you have two married people, it's the guy who's making more money than the woman. That's why I was saying, even if you're a woman. If what I meant is, even you're the breadwinner. If you're the breadwinner of your family, okay, and you're a man or a woman, you're the breadwinner. The other spouse doesn't make any money or makes much less. And so it's on you because these people making the excuse, right? Absolutely. I got to pay the bills here. All right, great. So you sit down, you do a budget. How much money do I need to make to support my family minimally? Not everything, not Johnny gets every toy he asks for, which is a real problem today. Mothers in particular, and a lot of dads shower their kids with a bunch of toys and bullshit because of guilt and helicopter parenting. It's awful. But anyway, what is the bare minimum I need to maintain my 2 children, my spouse, and myself? For example, let's say there's a family of 4. What is that number? Okay. Figure out what that number is. This is not including taxes. This is after tax. This is how much money you need to make. Okay. Set up a savings account and put as much money as you can in there over time. It might take you 2 or 3 years to do this. Fine. If you have money investments, fine. You can pull some of that, whatever you want to do. So now you have some kind of cushion in addition to setting up your business part-time and going that direction. So now it's still not an excuse. You have a few months of cushion, which is more than a few months, especially if you're making some money. So if you have 3 months of expenses, that only is 3 months if you're making zero money from your new business and you've quit your job. You're not going to do that. So that 3 months may last you 6 months, 7 months, a year, or whatever. Okay, you'll make some money somewhere. So you have that. It's just any other expense. And this also goes to medical expenses. So if you have this weird medical thing where I need, instead of a $300 medical insurance thing a month, I need $1,500 a month. All right. You plug that in your budget. This is something you need to hit now every month. Mm-hmm. So now you know what your income goal is to start your business. You don't quit your job until you're within striking distance of that goal. What I tell people is, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it, is when you have a part-time business, you don't quit your job until you're making at least 40% of your salary 3 months in a row. So you run a profit and loss statement for the past 90 days of how much money you made, divide by 3, getting a monthly average. That number, if that number is within 40% of your salary, you're ready to quit. And the reason for that is, as soon as you quit, you've now freed up 40 plus hours a week to put in your business. Do you think you can hit that next 60% if you have 40 hours? Yeah, I think you can. You're very safe. Now, if you have money in savings, you could even drop that to 20% or 30% if you have a lot of money in savings. But if you have minimal money in savings, 40% is a very safe number. But that's how you do this. And that includes the factor of, I have an extra added expense of kids or weird medical expenses, or, and not just kids. I take care of my elderly mother, because I get guys who tell me that I take care of my mom. Okay, how much money does she need minimally? Not, she doesn't get whatever she wants because she screams at you. Minimally, what does she need per month? What do you need to support her? You plug that in the budget. Now that's your monthly nut, and you work on that.
Right.
Kids are not an excuse unless you have maybe 10 of them.
Well, and if you do, you need corrective surgery. Good Lord.
So, hey, kids bring happiness and joy to all kinds of people.
Kids are awesome. Kids are super awesome when they're in someone else's house.
Well, there's a reason I had 2. My parents had 6. Both my sisters each have, let's see, my sister has 3, my other sister has 4. I had 2, and I knew from day one, 2. 1, and then 1 more, because once you have 1 more doesn't make a difference, and it kind of doesn't. And then I'm done at 2.
Correlation, though, too, between intelligence and the number of offspring. So typically, less educated and intelligent people have larger families.
That's correct. So, all over the world.
I've definitely seen that in action, which is really fascinating.
Oh, so have I. Oh my God. I know a couple. I won't get into many specifics. I know a couple, young couple, back in Portland where I used to live. Let's see. They, from age 20 to age 28, they were the same age. They had 6 or 7 children. 6 or 7. Maybe I want to say 7, because we were very Christian. And then they got divorced at age 28. So now this guy has to pay child support for 7 children plus a wife. And
and then the woman got dumped with 7 freaking kids to take care of. Yuck.
And now this woman has 7 kids. But you know what? She had a new boyfriend within, 6 months, because a lot of men don't care. But So, but you're right. They're both screwed for life because, don't get me started. There's a reason I had 2. That's all I'm going to say.
Right. But they are, like I tell people all the time, kids are expensive pets. In the grand scheme of things, it's like any other luxury that you bring into your life. They're expensive, and you need to budget for that, whether you're in a traditional job or a non-traditional job or your own business. And I think what we're both suggesting that's so important is you don't fucking throw away your job just because you want to start a new business. You start your side hustle, you get it going, and then you transition out of that job. Or what I suggest to so many people, and we've had one of your members of the 6-Figure Warrior mentorship last year was a great example of this, where he was able to parlay his traditional 40-hour-a-week corporate gig into a freelance gig. Mm-hmm. So he's performing very largely the same work. The responsibilities are the same, but he's now able to structure that on his own. He can say, these are the deliverables. These are the timelines. He owns that process now. And his business is a one-man LLC. It's just him. Right now, he can always grow that if he wants to, but it's that one man who's doing the same work in a freelance capacity, making more money because they don't have to pay those extras for him. The company's not paying his Social Security contributions. They're not paying the insurance. So they're able to give him a larger amount of money every month or per contract.
So that brings me to my next answer but I have kids or I have these expenses, is that there can be tax benefits when you're self-employed. There's all kinds of tax things you can do depending on your scenario that you can't do as an employee. So that means that your gross income is actually more than you think when you're self-employed, depending on how you're structured. I mean, I talk a lot about that at Sovereign CEO, at saving money. That's why I moved to Dubai. Now I realize not everyone's going to move to Dubai. I understand. So I'm an extreme example. But if I was as an employee and I went to Dubai, I would not have these options, for example. So that's another scenario on whether or not you have kids, whether or not your expenses. My point is just that instead of saying I have kids or I have more expensive medical insurance, instead of thinking of them as kids or medical insurance, think of them as a line item in your budget.
Yes.
Now, if that line item is $10,000 a month, I agree with you. If that line item is $1,800, you can make that work. That's a workable number. If it's $1,200, it might be not as much as you think in terms of the bare minimum you need per month. Think of it as a line item in your budget that you have to crack every month. And then you just set your goals accordingly and plan it out accordingly, like Bill and I just talked about. That's my thing on using kids as an excuse. It's just not an excuse, again, unless you have 10. It's just not. I get the medical thing, but again, we're going back to the exception of the rule.
Right. I think in general, most people speak to this from a point of fear.
Right.
I'm uncertain and I'm going to throw any excuse at you I can. And that's why I suggest maybe stay in your job. If you are that fearful, if you are that uncertain, stay in your job maybe. But that's where I would suggest overemployment. If you're fearful and you need to build a safety net, what's wrong with working 2 jobs?
Right.
It doesn't have to be the side hustle that you're building. You can step into 2 different jobs. And we know multiple people who are employed full-time with 2 different corporations. So they're not working that many hours because most full-time jobs can be done in a small percentage of the time allocated to them.
Especially if it's remote. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And it's not that employees are taking advantage, in my opinion. It means that they're using their time well. They're able to get things, able to accomplish things in a certain amount of time, which is what I'm looking for. So maybe consider overemployment as a different alternative for you, so you can save that money, build your safety net, and then exit the corporate world.
Right, as a phase to get your business.
Mm-hmm. But these are just stepping stone ideas. And I know, Caleb, you're not really big on overemployment. You say, no, build your own company. But from my perspective, if that gets you started on a trajectory where fear isn't holding you back from doing something, then by all means, freaking go for it. Make some extra bucks working a second job. That can be a part-time, it can be a full-time, really double dipping. As long as you're performing the work, you're learning something, and you're building that nest egg from which you can then create location and income independence. The goal isn't that you're going to be stuck in 2 corporate gigs forever, because that sounds like hell. 1 is not enough. But let's leverage the assets and the abilities that you do have, especially in today's marketplace, where people are clamoring for help across all industries, from the very bottom of the totem pole in customer service all the way up to corporate leadership. There are jobs to be had everywhere. You have to be working really hard not to find an opportunity. So I would suggest, if you're saying to me, Billie, I can't do that. I'm fearful. I have kids. My wife won't let me. My family is really not behind me and they freaked me out. Then just get another corporate gig for a while. Push yourself outside of your comfort zone that way, so you're at least doing fucking something.
And
the one thing that we hate is people spinning their wheels.
Right. And I know some of you are thinking, I don't want to work 2 jobs. This is bullshit. What she's suggesting, and she's right, is this will get you out of working your 1 job. She is saying, if you're just too terrified to start a business, fine, as a mechanism to get that savings account I mentioned earlier, so that you can start a business part-time, work a second job for a while, build up your savings account, okay? Then quit the second job, start the business on the side instead. Now you have that cushion, get it to 40%, quit your job. That's the sequence here.
Well, I'll interrupt and just say that the important thing to me is that you're always looking for a trajectory out of your current situation or a way to improve that current situation. So if the answer is, I can't afford that, I make $800 a month, I have no way to save, I can't do it, well, then get another job. And I don't say that lightly, and I'm not being aloof or flippant when I say this. I'm saying this as somebody who in my teens and 20s worked 2 and 3 jobs always.
Right. I'm saying it flippantly. My wife, when I met my wife, She was working 3 jobs. 3. She worked insurance during the day full time. On the weekends, she would show apartment rooms. She was an apartment leasing person. And then she worked radiology a few hours a week for a radiology clinic. 3 jobs. I've met all kinds of people who worked 2 jobs, 3 jobs. Not that tough, especially if it's temporary. And I remember what I was going to say is that here's the one danger to this, is that I've mentioned to some of you, like on the forums and things like that, like on our Facebook group and Discord groups and things like that. Guys will say, should I do something like work a second job for a while or do this for a while, just temporary? Should I get this better job just for a while? For a while. What you don't want to do is the opposite. Instead of saying, oh my God, I want 2 jobs. What you don't want to do, because people will do this, they'll get 2 jobs, then they'll just get used to it. Mm-hmm. And you check back 3-4 years later, they still have the same 2 jobs. They're still working the same 2 jobs. They haven't saved any money. So what the hell are you doing? So make sure you're doing this with an objective, not just because I need 2 jobs, I need more money, I need this, I need that. Don't get comfortable where you are. This is a stepping stone technique. This is not something that you just...
Yes. And it doesn't have to necessarily be a monetary stepping stone that you're finding here. It could be, I'm really interested in manufacturing stainless steel process vessels. And I only say that because that's my background from years ago. I don't think anyone's actually really interested, but I want to make some big vats where Nestle can melt their chocolate, but I don't know anything about processing. So then find a job, find a second job that's in that field that interests you. And maybe you're not making as much as you want to in a traditional job, but you're essentially being paid to learn that industry or that niche or that segment of a task, whatever it is in the job, you are being paid to learn. So seek out those opportunities. It doesn't, again, it's a stepping stone. You may only be in that role for 6 months because you want to learn and have a mentor and just have some exposure to that industry before you take the step of building your own business. But again, it's a way to get paid to attain that knowledge rather than paying someone to attain that knowledge.
Well, that's why I got a job instead of going to college.
Yeah.
I went right in the corporate world. I said, I'm going to learn much more and get from zero to the money much faster working than getting a fucking college degree. So that's exactly what I did. My jobs were my college. Literally. Those 3, 4, 5 years that my friends were going to college, I was learning on the job, literally learning. I would stay after work. I would learn, I would read books. I would ask questions of the guys at the company. That's what I did. Learning a bunch of skills that are now out of date because it was computers in the early 1990s.
But I mean, that's how knowledge is, right? I mean, knowledge is always upgraded over time as we continue learning.
It makes me laugh now because I still have some of the stuff in my head about DOS memory management and Windows 3.1. And I know all these things from 30 years ago that was really valuable 30 years ago. And now it's worthless. It's kind of funny. But that's my point, to Billy's point. That's also you can do. It's you said it. I have nothing to add.
Right. So if you are, my advice is that if you're in a position where you really want to learn something, you want to strike it out on your own, you have all the fire in your belly to start a new business, but you're going to have to spend 6 months or a year becoming an expert, get a job learning that role. Get a job learning from an expert.
Temporarily.
So you can segue those skills into your business, but do plot it down on paper. Caleb and I are really big on having a mission and having goals, checking in on our goals at least quarterly. So you need to plot that into your calendar essentially for the year.
Get comfortable.
I will take a job between, January and February, and I will exit that job between August and September. Whatever it is.
Whatever.
Tangibly write that down on your calendar.
Right.
Put it in your phone.
Put a date on the fucking calendar if you have to. I've told people to do this. Put a date on the calendar when you're going to quit. Or else we'll check back to you 5 years from now or 4 years from now or 3, and you'll still be there. You'll say, oh yeah, I should have quit. I didn't do it.
Exactly. Make a plan for yourself. Make sure that if you do stay with the job route, and I believe there's nothing wrong with that if it's right for you, if that's where you're happy, it's great.
Yeah.
But there should always be a plan for growth in your future, whether that's within the job or ideally segueing those skills you've learned in your jobs into your own business so that you do have that time independence, which Caleb and I value so much. Location independence is great. It's the time independence that's more valuable. So I would ask people, who come to me and say, hey, well, I can't do this because of my kids or because of my wife or my husband. How much more time would you have to give them if you did go that route?
That's another thing too, is that if you have kids or a spouse or a significant other, use those as a reason to better your life and make more money. So a lot of guys will throw this statistic at me, and it's true, that married men tend to make more money than single men. And there's a lot of reasons for that, in that guys who are losers and don't make any money tend not to get married. So it's more correlation than causation. However, there is some causation in that men who are married and or have kids have a stronger why to make more money than some single dude in his studio apartment. So utilize that. Use that as a why to make more money. Because a big thing, and I say this as a married man, a big thing that spouses have, I don't know if men have this more than women, and women have, it depends on, I don't know how this works for women. Maybe you can answer this question. We want to take care of our spouses. We want to take care of them. We want them to live a good life financially. That's a big part of this. We don't want them to worry about money, because I spent most of my early life when I was a kid and young adult worrying about money. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want my kids to go through that. I don't want my spouse to go through that. I don't want to go through that, but use them as whys instead of as excuses, which is what most people do. So it's the opposite. It's the opposite mindset, isn't it? I have a question for you, although you're not married, but you've had long-term boyfriends. Did you ever want to, I think I know the answer to this, so maybe it's not, maybe you're not a good example of this, but did you ever want to like take care of, like make more money to benefit the person you were with? Oh no,
I'm always, in fact, that's why I'm single now, and like very intentionally so. I've always carried my partner. I've always been the overachiever.
Oh, so you were the other extreme.
I have always been the
Oh, I do remember that now. So you were with someone when I first started working with you.
Yeah, I've always been with like nice guys that are kind of not going anywhere, or certainly not going at the same speed as me.
I remember that.
I just don't like having to carry someone else. I want them to carry their load next to me, or like, pull together. I just don't want to carry people. It's too much of a burden.
I do remember that now. You were with someone about 5 years ago, and
we've only been broken up like 3 years, but yeah.
3? Yeah. No.
Yeah, I promise.
I thought it was 4 or 5. Okay, all right.
So I do remember that. A long while, but
then that is
nice person. I recommend him to others. If he ever needed a reference,
recommend him to others. Yeah,
he's a lovely, amazing human being, just not right for me.
Yeah, that's how I view my ex. Yeah. The exact same thing. But that kind of proves my point. So in an indirect way, you had that same thing. You had a why, and you use that person as a why instead of an excuse. And certainly if you have children, you had kids, my God, don't you want to provide a better life for your kids? Isn't that, that was a big thing for me, because I was raised not poor, but very lower middle class, where a lot of things I wanted a lot of things when I was a kid I never got. And I'm like, man, when I grow up, my kids don't have to worry about this. And they didn't, because I used them as a why.
That's actually part of my joy as an auntie, is that,
oh, right.
I don't like babies. I don't like children. I don't like noise and messes. That's part of Asperger's, honestly, is that's just really overstimulating. But we grew up dirt poor. I mean, we were very poor. So I am the auntie who sends like a big box of shoes to each of my nieces and nephews.
That's cool.
When school starts. I never want any of my nieces and nephews or people in my family to feel that lack.
You're right.
That's my why. That's a big part of my why. I'm doing it for, it improves me, but then I'm also able to give them experiences and things that give them a better life. And it doesn't matter that they're not my children. I do that for my community through fundraising and volunteering. I do it for my family. The why is the same, though. It's that same impetus of not having other people feel less or lacking or in need.
You reminded me of something. A big thing that a lot of people have is their parents. So a lot of you would like to take care of your parents. I just talked to a guy a month or two ago. He just bought his mom a house, and it's a nice house. And he started from nothing. And that was his big why, to take care of his mommy and his daddy. So that's another big thing. Wouldn't it be cool to buy your mom a house or buy them a new car, or, bail your mom out if she, or dad, or if your parents have medical problems? My parents are both in their 80s. So I'm getting in that zone now. My parents are having medical issues. Now, thank God they have their own money. Thank God. Thank God. So that was the gift they gave us. We don't have to take care of them. But if you're not in that scenario where you want to take care of your parents, you have that too. That's another why. If you have, I don't have any kids, I don't want to get married. Okay. Your parents, wouldn't that be cool? Take care of your mom or your dad? Or both?
Yeah. Or siblings neat? Or whatever.
Or siblings, if you're close to your siblings. Yes. I would do that with my siblings. But I love my siblings. I'm not going to give them any money. But if that's something you have, because when I talk about moving out of the country, guys will say, and actually we got to go pretty soon, but guys will say things, well, I'm not going to leave my brother here. Okay. So start your own business. And so you can take care of your brother. So you can move him, for example. Again, instead of using that as an excuse, use that as a why. Every excuse you're making for these expenses, these people, I should say, should be a why, not an excuse. Yeah.
Exactly. Our job is to be here to help you remove those mental barriers and roadblocks.
Right. That's exactly why we're here. That's literally and exactly why we're here, isn't it?
And just, I think to close this, it would be great to remind you guys that, whether it's a job or your own business, they're both valuable and valid as long as you're working toward that why.
Yes.
The more you're able to really understand and prioritize yourself, the happier you will be and the more successful you will be. The money follows. It's amazing.
Do we have, unless you don't want to talk about this, do we have other people in this podcast next time? We want to give some hints about that or no?
We do. We have the our super snowboarder dude from.
We got a few people, right? Do we have at least 3? How many people do we have lined up? 3?
Oh, we have several guests lined up for the over.
Okay, cool. I don't even know. So you're in charge of the schedule. So that's
cool. The next one is going to be our right hand best boy Jeff, who I have no better phrase for. Best boy is not right.
He'll love that.
I know he's going to kick my ass. He's the fabulous and multi-talented Jeff, the snowboarder and golfer and business badass from Utah will be joining me. And coming up, we're going to be talking to the Groove marketing team in Lebanon, who does all of Caleb's socials. We have someone coming up from the UK, and as well as a guest from Pakistan who will be talking to us about hiring and sourcing unicorns from both ends of the
all
spectrum.
These people are heavy hitters. All 4 of these people so far. These are good people.
So we have a lot of people coming up over the next few weeks. We're going to have guests probably every other week, maybe a little bit more than that, because we have such a great lineup of people that are looking forward to joining us and sharing their wisdom and ideas.
There are a lot of people in billionaire lives, business lives, that are very good at things that we're not good at. There are a lot of people in my orbit and in Billy's orbit that are very good at things that I am very bad at and give you much better advice than I could on specific areas. And all 4 of those people, plus some others, they're all perfect examples of this. And you'll see what kind of information you get these people. It's this. I've learned a lot from these people. I know you have too.
I have.
Yeah, that's exciting. It's awesome.
I can't wait to introduce people to the rest, to the bigger cast of people that we work with, especially people like Jeff, whom some of the audience may have heard of, who's been instrumental in running your operation, scaling the business, and making some changes. So I'm so excited to have him on. And we'll continue to bring some of your staff and freelancers on over the next year as well. So people can really get an idea of what it's like employing all these ideas that we're telling you about in their actual work life and creating their own businesses as they grow with us.
And clients too.
Yeah.
That's something I'd like to see is some of our successful clients, some of our success stories. That'd be awesome.
We definitely have a few of those coming up as well. We have a hypnotist guest, and you know who that is.
Oh, yes. Awesome. Okay, cool. Okay, good. Good.
I think there's the person who's in Guadalajara and working on residency over in Armenia right now. So we definitely have a few people on the client end.
Awesome. Perfect.
And I'm reaching out to more of them, as I get to know them more deeply. And I think that they can add something to the lives of you, our listeners. I'm inviting them to be on the podcast, and we're starting to schedule out some pretty heavy hitters through the rest of the year. Cool. All right. I'm excited. Thank God. This is so cool. You guys are in for a lot of amazing, actionable content, which is what I'm about. Not feel good shit, stuff you can take and actually put into your life
stuff you learned today. Anyway, this is great. Cool. All right.
That's what we're all about. I love being a conduit and an implementer. So, Caleb and I will push you with big ideas, and then I'll chase you down with a whole bunch of staffers and team members and coaches and clients to help you implement with no excuses.
Cool. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Billie.
Thanks. Great seeing you, Caleb. We'll see everyone next week on our podcast.
See you guys.